Hello, welcome back to More Fun Fixing It. I'm Lee, and today I'm going to step right outside my comfort zone. So usually on this channel I'm fixing Commodore 64s, ZX Spectrums of various types, some of them Amstrads, and I usually stick to my 8-bit and sometimes occasionally 16-bit home microcomputers because I kind of understand them a little bit more. But when it comes to games consoles, not so much. It's not something I generally find myself dabbling in. Well, today, this is going to be a bit different. So I've got Chris and Simon to thank for all of this lot. This one here is from the famous Pigeon Poo warehouse. I will wash my hands after handling this, don't worry. Simon sent this to me a couple of years ago and I still haven't fixed it. It is in awful condition. I can show you inside because it's got no screws in. It really is an absolute state, but it's not as bad as some of the others. So I'm anticipating that this will, with a little bit of TLC, actually work. But that's not the subject of today's video. Chris, who's one of my patrons, sent me this, and this is a CD-ROM with interface unit. We take the lid off like this. Now it did have a missing clip, and I have 3D printed a new one here, and this was just like a temporary one go at this with PLA, and it's worked so well that Chris really likes the colour that I'm actually going to print it, or I'm printing it right now behind me. My lovely Bamboo Labs printer is printing a better version of this with a smooth plate and slightly higher detail. So I'm going to replace the old one as well. Chris wants them both. I'll keep this with it, obviously. So these don't belong to me. This one was a donation, but the rest of this all of this belongs to Chris. That's mine. We'll come to that. And this controller's mine. We'll come to that. But this controller, this PC Engine, and this CD-ROM thing set up is Chris's. So this works. I tried this on an unboxing video recently, and I used this separately and it worked fine. No problems with this one. I haven't tried the CD-ROM. They are notorious for going faulty with a cog inside here that just disintegrates. So I'm having that printed. My neighbour is very kindly 3D printing a replacement with his resin printer. I did try printing it with my FDM printer, and with the standard nozzle, I'm going to have to zoom right down for this. With the standard nozzle, the 0.4mm, just ignored that there were actually any teeth on the cog and just made a little cylinder. But then I tried printing it in PETG with a 0.2. And you're not meant to print PETG with a 0.2mm nozzle, apparently. I don't know why, but it actually came out really well. That is an actual option. I might even give this a try, but I'll put that in with the rest of the stuff. There's other things that need to be done to this, so this is not going to be the subject of today's video. We'll get to that. I have purchased for the 3 consoles I've got here new cap kits, because these apparently are very notorious for leaky caps. I did try a translucent PETG, but it didn't look very nice, so I've gone back to the PLA. Right, so I've also purchased this, which is this is to plug into the PC Engines to give it RGB and composite and a Mega Drive 2 output, video output, and I've got my Turbo EverDrive as well. These are readily available from AliExpress. Oh, the cap kits came from eBay from our Retro Upgrades UK. So this one's going in the pile to wait. I've got some games for the CD-ROM here, and some Hue cards for the standard, or including the system card for the CD-ROM there. I've got another Hue card somewhere. I need to dig that out. So I've got games to test, and these all work. There's another game in here. Looks like Bomberman is sitting in that one. And like I said, I've got the controllers. This one works fine. This one doesn't work, so that needs some attention later on. And this one I bought from the Retro Collective Cave Museum sale recently, and this one's set up for PC Engine, and I bought a cable which I thought would work. It's got the right pins, the right plugs on each end. It doesn't work. So I think this actually must swap. It might be, you know, a crossover of pins. It might not be a straight through. So I need to check the pin out on that. And if this doesn't work, then I'll need to change the pin out inside here somehow. I'm not sure how wise that's going to be, but that's a job for another day. And lastly, we've got this one. This one was sent to me by Chris some time ago, and I offered to repair it for him. And this one doesn't work. And I have switched this one on and tried it, and I can show you, I should really show you that now. Let's get set up for that. These unknown condition PC Engine consoles raise a great question. What exactly is the best approach when the main board is completely rotten? And answering that gives me the perfect opportunity to thank today's sponsor, PCBWay. You see, one thing I have to be concerned about, especially in a grotty example like this, is corroded traces and vias. If that happens, it is possible to trace every trace and reconnect any that have succumbed to the ravages of age and pigeon guana. But this is often a fruitless and frustrating task. With traces running underneath quad flat pack chips and other components, you're left with only one option: stripping the board down entirely. And at that point, you might as well build a new one. But where would you buy such a thing? Surely replacement boards for a decades-old game console aren't something you can just buy off the shelf. Well, no, not exactly. But thanks to the hard work of community members like Kosam, this particular motherboard and many others have been meticulously recreated. By searching the shared projects section over on PCBWay, you can find the exact Gerber files for the PC Engine ready to be manufactured with PCBWay's fantastic quality and fast turnaround times. So if your old NEC machine is mostly rust and brown gloop, don't give up hope. Click the link in the description below to get a replacement board from PCBWay and bring your old machine back to life. Thank you again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Now I need to go and have a wash. Ugh. Right, let's get this switched on. And see where we are. I'm not going to put a hue card in it yet. Let's see if that displays anything on screen. Okay, we've got a white screen. Now, with Bomberman, this definitely works. Still a white screen. It's a slightly off-white screen that time. Sometimes, apparently, if you pull the card out slightly, that can make a difference. Although it makes it difficult to, yeah, now the switch will turn on. No. Okay, so definitely broken. I suspect with that slightly off colour that the caps might be an issue here. I've already removed with my game bit driver the screws. And this is another big problem with these, this huge ribbon cable inside here. I don't want to stress that too much, but I've got to get the screwdriver in there to actually release it. So I'm going to have to... We'll go to there. Well, it's not looking in absolutely brilliant condition inside here. I think I can see some leakage around the caps. But there's contamination all over the board actually, so it might not be the caps that are leaking. It could be a spill or this has been submerged. Okay, so I've just had a look inside the slot and there is some contamination on the bottom, but the pins are on the top side and they look pretty good. But I am going to try cleaning those thoroughly. Now I want to give the rest of the board a really good inspection. I'm just going to have a little clean around under here just to get rid of some of the gunge that's in the way and make sure that I'm not seeing bad traces where there aren't any. There's something gone on in here and it's brown. And it's really caked on as well. It's not, it doesn't want to move. Okay, so I've gone around, I've actually checked every single pin on these quad flat pack chips and these RAM chips down here and this chip up here, and every pin is solid. I've given it a good thorough clean around the chips as well with a toothbrush and some IPA. I've gone into this slot with a flattened cotton bud and cleaned that out. There was some dirt in there, but I'm not sure. Well, it could have been affecting it. It's difficult to know with these things. But I think it would be wise to try it now. Just see if... I mean, I don't want to go poking around any further if I've actually fixed it. Now that this is not in its case, I'm going to have to be a bit more careful of shorting things out. How does that look? Nothing. Still different colours. No difference on wiggling the cable. Right, so the next thing I want to do is check, actually, I want to check for voltage first. Simple things first, check the simple stuff. So I don't know where to find the voltages on this board like I would with a Spectrum or a C64, so I'm just going to turn it on and check on the voltage regulator first to make sure that it is outputting. It's only drawing 400 milliamps or 330 now. It is settled down 320. Yeah, 320 milliamps. So I don't expect that that's under any strain. That's the 9 volts going in, and then coming out, it's perfect 5.02 volts. I would expect one of these RAM chips to have 5 volts like that one has. So I think probably the next thing I need to do is find out which one of these is the processor. And I mean, there's the crystal, and this is a problem. These are difficult to actually replace. I know Lee Smith had a problem with his Pigeon Poo warehouse PC Engine where he had a bad crystal, and he got lucky that he was provided one, but they are very, very difficult to source. So I need to look up which one of these is CPU, find out where the clock is, and see if there's any activity on there. Before I do that, the printer's finished for this clip, and quite pleased with that. There's a little bit of glue left in there. I've printed it with an insert inside there's like a little dip here for your finger to go into, and I printed it with some this is PLA, and I printed it with some PETG in this section here, so that should it should peel out, but it's not really come out very cleanly. Well, there's some more to come out. Yeah, it's coming out. It's pinging all over my workshop. To be honest, the ones that I printed without this in, they look fine. So if this doesn't work, then it's not the end of the world. There we go. Oh, it's just popped out. Oh, yeah, perfect. That left a perfect little dimple there. Right, schematics. Kind of annoyed right now because I have just had this. I've just taken off the shielding on the back to have a look at the back. I showed you that the processor was actually running, the clock was there, the reset was there, and I took the shield off the back and it's covered in goo, and really horrible brown liquidy goo. Looks like a spill of some sort, and I've cleaned it all up, turned it on. I haven't actually, one thing I haven't tried actually is putting a hue card in and seeing if it's actually working now just with that cleanup. But I did show that there was a hotspot over on this side of the board in a blank area, and that corresponds to a transistor over here at TR104, which is glowing, not particularly hot, but is definitely hotter than the ones around it, and probably faulty. So yeah, I missed all of that footage. I'm so sorry. That was really poor work. But now that I've cleaned that up, I just want to actually make sure that this, or see if it's working, make sure it's not magically fixed itself after just a clean, which is always a possibility. Make sure it doesn't short on anything. Still a white screen. And different colours as well. Okay. So I can quickly show you that hotspot. You can see that there's a component just there, and that corresponds to, look, you can see my pointer there. It's that transistor there, which is TR104. So I need to find out what that is and see if I can replace it. I might have to pause this and order some stuff and then come back tomorrow. Okay, right, so I had a little poke around, and I've got out the pigeon poo one, which has already been shucked from its innards, and I had a look with the thermal camera at that transistor. It wasn't TR104, it's TR105, because they look really difficult to get hold of. It's a legacy part. I would have to find an equivalent, and I'd have to order it in and everything. And this one does exactly the same thing. And I don't know if you can see there, there's a glowy dot there, and that is that exact same transistor. Now, this is also a broken NEC, so it could feasibly be broken in exactly the same way. But I'm going to go with that one always glows. I do have a working one, but I don't want to, unless I really have to, I don't want to take the working one to pieces just yet. So I'm going to carry on as I were, and I think the sensible thing to do now, the sensible thing to do is to recap it, but I'm looking at these caps and they all look fine to me. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. I'm out slightly at a loss. Right, so simple things first then. First simple thing I'm going to do is reflow all of the pins where this connector is connected at both ends, and that's going to be difficult for this end because that's really folded over, and I'm going to put a lot of stress on these doing that. So let's do that one last and do these ones first, and just to rule that out. I'm not a big fan of this console at the moment. I'm sure I will enjoy its games immensely, but, well, and it's just an unknown, really. Okay, it's one end reflowed. An idea. We'll put a piece of paper over this hue card, spray some contact cleaner on here. Do I fold it over the top? It's probably a good idea. Or it might not be a good idea. Let's go with no for now. Don't think that's actually going in there. Okay, let's give that a go. Still nothing. Okay, let's try reflowing this end now. This has also got some of that gunge on it. I'll give this a clean. Not as bad as the top bit, but oh, still pretty bad. Okay, not the neatest bit of soldering I've ever done, but it's awkward to get in there. I will try it once more. Exactly the same. Okay, so it's still not working. I've had a little probe around on the, what I assume are the memory chips down here on IC 105, and there's nothing. There's no activity there at all. I'm not sure how to go ahead with this. This is a tricky one. Maybe a good idea would be to check the continuity between the ends of these cables. I will do that now because they're all nice and clearly marked. What? That just goes straight through to there, doesn't it? What? Why is pin 1 not connected? Okay, this is going to make things awkward because the pins don't match up exactly with the other ends. It's frustrating. Not enjoying this. Okay, I'm a little bit lost and getting a bit frustrated now. The schematics that I looked at previously said that this was the CPU. Apparently, no, that's the CPU. I think this is the GPU, and this is like a video DAC type thing. Not sure exactly, but obviously I've had a little look at one of the masters, Gadget UK's videos, and he explained the difference between the chips, and I think he was getting confused as well. But I found some good schematics, not the ones that I was looking at. The good schematics are by Kosam, and a lovely, lovely man, and someone who really knows his schematics. So he should know. So that's the CPU, but I think that the pinout I was measuring was still the clock and the reset on this chip. So that still stood. But I'm still not sure what to look for on here, whether I should be probing around for activity or not. But you know what? The thing I think I should do, now that I've reflowed the cable at both ends, and the cable looks in good condition, it doesn't look cracked or anything, so I'm assuming that none of the pins are broken. My gut instinct is that this had a spill and has taken out one of these chips, in which case I'm probably not going to be able to fix this. Certainly not this week without some spare chips. So I think the only thing, the sensible thing to do would be to recap it. But those caps actually look fine. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove one of them, one that's closest to this danger area where I've found that hot I say hot transistor, it's not that hot. Or actually, no, I'm going to take this one which is closest to the voltage regulator and the heatsink. This one down here, I'm going to remove that and test it out of circuit. If that's okay, I'm not going to replace any of them. I'm probably just going to button this up for now and see what you lot say. Here we go. It's quite hot, so I'll give that a second to cool down. I'm just going to wick out some of that solder in the holes. Oh. Smoky. Okay, I got my LCR meter here. This should give me a reasonably accurate reading for this. What is it first? It is, I think it's a 1 microfarad. 1 microfarad, 50 volts. Yeah, 950 nanofarad, which is just a few nanofarad short of 1 microfarad, and 9.5 ESR. There's nothing wrong with that. Just to prove it, I don't know what brand these are in here in these kits, but just to prove. I'm just going to measure one of these. 1 microfarad, 50 volts, so the same rating and everything. Yeah, 1 microfarad and 4.5 ohms of ESR. Yeah, that's not going to make any difference. So I don't think recapping it is going to make any difference. So I'm going to leave this one up to you. Where do I start? I have the schematics. I can start probing, but what do I look for first? Okay, so some time has passed since my despair on that last scene that you've just witnessed, and I've learned quite a lot. I probably need to learn quite a lot more, but I've done a bit. I took most of today just to familiarize myself with what's going on in here, what all the different bits are, and how they connect together, and what I should expect to see when I'm probing this thing with a scope. And what I've found, okay, so not what I've found, let's first of all go through what is in here, because there was some confusion on my part about what all of these chips are. This one up here is the CPU. This is the Hue C6280, and it's basically a 6502, which has been modified so it can run faster and address more memory. And one of the things that I did probe earlier when I checked the clock, and this was a small clue, was that the clock was at about 3.5 megahertz. This runs quite a lot faster than that. I think it runs, it might be like 7 or even more megahertz. Now that indicates that, because what happens is when the machine starts up, it starts up in its lower state and then I believe gets switched up into the faster state on a command or something in the ROM that tells it, right, okay, you can run at this speed. It was stuck at 3.5 megahertz. Now that's CPU. This one is the video chip, the MC60 the Hue C6270. Why are these all upside down? Yeah, that's the video display controller, and this one is the VCE, and this is video color encoder, so this is the video chip and this is the video color chip, and these are memory chips for the display. This memory chip here is the worker RAM, and that is what the system starts up using. The Hue card also has its own memory inside it. I'm not going to be able to probe anything in here, and this is not a problem, so I don't need to rule that out. So that's where I started. The next thing I did was because I'd already probed down here, and there was absolutely no activity on here, but having learned that this was the video side of things, and there was a picture with some color on it, this seemed to me that this wasn't even being activated. It hadn't got that far. And I believe that what happens is the CPU goes looking for some memory, a memory address in ROM space, which is on the Hue card. So I started probing around on pins over here, and I could see activity. And this chip here, this SRAM chip here, I believe it's SRAM, it had activity on it as well. So I went off looking for the different parts of the schematics. This one in particular is good. This is the CPU and this is the worker RAM. And the first thing I did was to check for continuity between every single pin on the worker RAM and its corresponding pin on the CPU, and they were all fine, which told me that no, at least most of this cable is working fine, which I suspected it was okay. I'd reflowed both ends. I couldn't see anything that looked weak or cracked. I had checked continuity on the, basic continuity from end to end, and the pins that are connected were buzzing out fine. So that backed up that the cable was okay. And the next thing I did was start to go around and have a look at the pins on this chip. Well, I started with the chip enable. There's actually two chip select lines on here. One at pin 20 here, which is connected to pin 61 of the CPU, which is CER. Don't know what that means, but I'm assuming that's chip select. You should see a storm of activity on there, and there was a good activity on there. The other one is just tied to 5 volts, this chip select 2. I don't know whether that's for a future thing. So that means this is basically switched on, I think, all the time. And the output enable and write enable, I'm assuming that's what they are, OE and WE on 22 and 27. Both of those had good activity on. Then went on to the address bus, and apart from a few higher address lines being low, I did make a note somewhere. Yeah, some of the higher address lines, so 16 and 13, 17, 18 and 14, I found were low, which left me with the data bus. The data bus is on pins 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19, which is D0 to D7. An 8-bit data bus, and I'm going to start at 15. There's some down here underneath. This pin goes from the pin out on this is pin 1's here to pin 14, 15, and then 28. So I'm going to start at 15 and go that way to 19. In fact, we're not going to get to 19 because 17 is the one that's at fault. No spoilers. Okay, there's no hue card. If there's no hue card on here, this is what the data bus looks like. It's basically empty. That's 4 pins there with they're just floating pins. Well, that one's bouncing around. Right, so I'll need to put a hue card in to make this actually pick up some activity. Okay, so with a hue card in there, switch it on. Pin 15, good data activity. Sorry, my scope just disappeared off the screen then. So that's pin 15. That's got good activity on data line 3, and 16. Again, good activity on data line 4, and 17 looks like that. Now, in my experience, that's a bad data line. I'm going to look at the one next to it. This is pin 18. That's a good data line, where it gets from a good logic high to a good logic low without these. Look at that, it's being dragged down in parts. Not all the time, but there's something there that's making that go wrong. So with that in mind, I went off looking around the board, and I started with the CPU to make sure that the data line which is data line 5 on pin 17, data line 5, it's pin 54 on the CPU, and I can't really show you this up close. I'll switch this on, and pin 55 is here. You can see there's that good data line, and the next one along is pin 54, and that's bad there. So it stands to reason there's not like a bad connection between the CPU and this point here. So it's not the ribbon cable. This is all not causing that problem, not causing that data line to be dodgy. Now, there are other places on the board that are connected to the data line. Both of these chips, the VDC and the VCE, the video chip and the video color chip, are connected to data line 5, and this RAM chip is connected to data line 5. The hue card is connected to data line 5. Very difficult to rule that out, but I mean, I can easily rule that out by doing this, putting another one in, and these both work, so that should work. it would still do the same thing. So I lifted pin 17 on this workaround chip and isolated it from the board, very fiddly, using a pair of tweezers just to lift it up whilst heating it with soldering iron. Made sure there was no connection, and the problem was still on the board, still on the data line. So I resoldered that one, and I did the same thing on this chip, lifted it up, same thing on this chip, lifted it up, and neither of those fixed the problem. There is one other place on the board where the data line is connected, which is this connector. I did have the video thing in there, converter in there, but I took that out and it's still the same. So sadly, what that means is that this CPU is the only thing that's common on all of these tests. It's the only thing that's still connected. There's no point in me, I don't think there's any point in me lifting that up, because I really don't think there's any point in me doing that. Because I think that's the thing that's driving the data bus. Okay, so apparently it is something I should do, because it's a bi-directional data bus and other chips can drive the data bus. So I do need to actually do this. So I'm just going to do that now off camera, because it's really tight in there. I can't even get the microscope to focus down on here because this cable is in the way, and it's really super fiddly. I have to get a pair of tweezers in above and lift it straight up, and it's really hard. And I need to lean right over the bench as well, so just bear with me a minute. I'll come back to you. God, this is fiddly as hell. Okay, I think I've done it. Yep, that's floating around there now. What does that do? This will actually just confirm if the data bus is the problem, if that CPU is the problem. And I can confirm that up here. Turn it on. Pin 15, 16, 17. Yes, it is. Look at that. That's the D5 signal, and it now looks much more normal. It's definitely the CPU, which is, I mean, that's a huge shame, because according to our resident expert on the Retro Collective Discord, Ergon, these are now hen's teeth. You just can't buy these anymore. It's a chip that you used to be able to buy them to replace bad ones, but the stock has dried up. Now, he also said that removing, you know, these are now getting on a bit. There's risk in removing this, or removing a good one from a known good board. I have got a known good board here in the CD-ROM unit, and that would be a big risk to that chip. So I'm not going to do that. This is basically the end of the line for this one, unless someone has a CPU or a broken PC Engine that, you know, in a really bad condition that I might be able to salvage a CPU from. This is done. But that's not the end of the story. Not yet. So let's put this on one side. In my journey, my search through this, I did get out the Pigeon Poo Warehouse PC Engine. Ew. Just because I wanted to make sure that what I was seeing on the data bus on this chip was right. God, look at the state of that. And I have connected this up. I suppose I can show you. I've given the Hue card slot a really good clean with some sandpaper. Let's put Bomberman in there. And Pro pin 17. You can see, oops, that's 16. And that's 17. That's much more normal. That's what you should be seeing. It looks faster as well. So I'm assuming that the clock is running at the right speed on this one. And that is actually running, which is interesting in its own right, because if I connect this to a display, right, so I'm connected it with RF and I'm tuning it in now. But if you watch really carefully, very soon, you'll hopefully see something interesting. I don't know if I'm connected to the right bloody cable. Ah, no, I had the wrong cable in there. you can see on here, that's Bomberman. That's running. That's working. So this is a working system. And all it needs is a decent case. I've seen one of those around here somewhere. So I've actually said to Chris, I will buy the broken system off of him. And I'm going to, in the next video, I'm going to restore this one. I'm going to get this board washed up. I might have to steal a few other bits off of the other one, like this controller connector here, if that needs sorting out. There's a few bits. There's some stuff here that's really rusty. I might have to remove a few bits to get this back up to where it should be. I might change the hue card slot as well, although this seems to be working. And I want to recap this one and make sure it's all in good condition. I might take the switch off as well because that's all rusty. But yeah, this is a working system. This is fully functional. Well, I say fully functional. I haven't tested it. There is a problem with the video display. It doesn't work with this. I know why that is. And Lee Smith and Glenn from CRG will be screaming at me, telling me, but I already know what it is. I've watched your videos and I will reference them in the next one. Anyway, so sadly, this one is not going to be a survivor. It is only one chip. It is definitely that one chip, and I'm glad I was able to fully diagnose what that was. But yeah, this one's apparently not going to be brought back to life in its current form, unless if somebody's got a CPU that they can help me with, then but please get in touch and let me know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I did enjoy that. I got quite frustrated in the first part of this. And this is something that I need to learn, and other people can learn from this as well, is that just because I don't understand something doesn't mean I can't understand it. It just means that I need to take a little bit of time and learn what all of the bits are, and then it becomes a bit more obvious about how they work together. And there's lots of resources out there. For instance, Kosam's amazing diagnostics really helped me so much. And there are all of the other brilliant videos from people like CRG Glenn, Lee Smith's workshop, Neil from the Retro Collective, and Gadget UK, Chris, were all invaluable to me. I consumed as much as I could just to learn as much as I could. And, you know, I might not ever work on one of these again, but I had much more fun once I was informed and able to find a way forward, step by step, and eliminate things, then when I was just floundering around going, it's not working, pointing at random chips saying, oh, that's a little bit hot. So yeah, good fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And if you did, then give me YouTube things, press buttons. Also go in the description and have a look. There's a link there to my Patreon if you want to support the channel, and there's a link there to the Retro Hardware Discord if you want to join us to help chat with other people and help other people fix their things, and all sorts of other stuff's going on there as well. Great. I will see you in the next one. Yeah, goodbye. I've come away a lot happier than I started.